Chapter 14. The King Explains. The first who recovered his voice and presence of mind was Benson. "Did your lordship ring for coffee?" he asked quietly, and when he was told yes, he bowed and withdrew, in majestic composure. When he had gone, the prince threw himself at the king's feet, crying, "Pardon, pardon, my liege." "Don't speak to me, sir," answered the king very angrily, and the poor prince threw himself at the feet of the queen. But she took no notice of him whatever, no more than if he had been a fairy. The prince heard her murmur, and she pinched her royal arms. "I shall awaken presently, and this is nothing out of the way of a dream. Dr. Rumpino prescribes it in imperfect nutrition." All this time, the Lady Rosalind, as pale as a marble statue, was leaning against the side of the open window. The prince thought he could do nothing wiser than to go and comfort her, so he induced her to sit down on a chair on the balcony, for he felt that he was not wanted in the drawing room. And soon they were talking happily about the stars, which had begun to appear in that summer night. Meanwhile, the ambassador had induced the king to take a seat, but there was no use in talking to the queen. "It would be a miracle," she said to herself. "The miracles do not happen, therefore this has not happened. Presently I shall wake up in my own bed in Falkenstein." Now, Benson, William, and Thomas brought in the coffee, but the queen took no notice. When they went away, the rest of the company slipped off quietly, and the king was left alone with the ambassador, for the queen could hardly be said to count. "You want to know all about it, I suppose," said his majesty in a sullen voice. "Well, you have a right, and I shall tell you. You were just sitting down to dinner at Falkenstein, rather late. Hours get later every year, I think, when I heard a row on the premise, and the captain of the guard, Colonel MacDougall, came and told us that the man had arrived with the horns and tail of the fire drake, and was claiming the reward. Her Majesty and I rose and went to the outer court, where we found, sitting on that carpet with a glass of beer in his hand, a respectable-looking upper servant, whom I recognized as her butler. He informed us that he had just killed the beast, and showed us the horns and tail. Sure enough, there they were. The tail was like an iron handle of a pump, but the horns were genuine. The pair were grown up by a volcano, and in my great-grandfather's time, King the Earth first. Excellent coffee this, of yours." The ambassador bowed. "Well, we asked him where he put the fire drake, and he said in a garden near Gluckstone. Then he began to speak about the reward, and how the perquisites, as he called them, which it seemed to have read from my proclamation. Rather a neat thing. Drew it myself, His Majesty." "Very much to the point," said the ambassador, wondering what the king was coming to. "Glad you like it," said the king, much pleased. "Well, where was I? Oh, yes. Your man said he had killed the creature in a garden quite near Gluckstone. I didn't much like the whole affair. He is an alien, you see, and then there's my niece, Melinda. Poor girl. She was certain to give trouble. Her heart buried, if I may say so, with poor Alfonso. But the queen is a very remarkable woman. Very remarkable." "Very," said the ambassador with perfect truth. "Caitiff," she cries to her butler. His Majesty went on. "Perturbed knave, thou liest in my throat. Gluckstone is 100 leagues from here, and how sayest thou that thou slewest the monster, and camest hither in a few hours' space?" This had not occurred to me. I am a plain king, and once I saw the force of her Majesty's argument. "Yes," I said. "How did you manage it?" But he, your man I mean, was not a bit put out. "Why, your Majesty," says he, "I just sat down on that bit of carpet and wished I was here, and here I am. And I'd be glad, having the trouble, and my time not being my own, to see the color of them perquisites, according to the proclamation." On this her Majesty grew more indignant, if possible. "Nonsense," she cried. "A story out of the Arabian Nights is not suited for a modern public, and fails to win aesthetic credence." These were her very words. "Her Majesty's expressions are ever choice and appropriate," said the ambassador. "Sit down there on the carpet, knave," she went on. "Ourself and consort, meaning me, will take our places by thy side, and I shall wish us Gluckstein at thy master's. When the experiment had failed, thy head shall from thy shoulders be shorn. So your man merely said, Very well, mum, your majesty, I mean, and he sat down. Queen took her place at the edge of the carpet. I sat between her and the butler, and she said, I wish I were in Gluckstein. Then you rose and flew through the air at an astonishing pace, and here we are. So I suppose the rest of the butler's tale is true, which I regret, but a king's word is sacred, and shall take the place of that snake Prigio. But as we left home before dinner, and as yours is over, may I request your lordship to believe that I would be delighted to take something cold. The ambassador once ordered a sumptuous collation, to which the king did full justice, and his majesty was shown to the royal chamber as he complained of fatigue. The queen accompanied him, remarking that she was sound asleep, but would waken presently. Neither of them said good night to the prince. Indeed, they did not see him again, for he was on the balcony with Lady Rosalind. They found a great deal to say to each other, and at last the prince asked her to be his wife, and she said that if the king and her father gave their permission, why then she would. After this she went to bed, and the prince, who had not slept at all the night before, felt very sleepy also, but he knew that he first had something that must be done. So he went to the drawing room, took his carpet, and wished to be now, what do you suppose? Beside the dead body of the fire drake. There he was in a moment, and the dreadful body looked, lying stark and cold in the white moonshine. Then the prince cut off his 4 hooves and put them in his wallet, and with these he flew back in a second, and met the ambassador just as he came from ushering the king to bed. Then the prince was shown to his room, where he locked up the hooves, the carpet, and the cap of darkness, and his other things in an iron box. And so he went to bed, and dreamed of his Lady Rosalind.